Hi and welcome, Jo here over at woollycottage.com. This is my very first upload official just for Patreon members. This is Dye Pot Thursday for me, and every Thursday I generally get my wools all dyed up and dried overnight, and then I think about the process of how I'm going to get them all blended up on Sunday. Sometimes I list them up on the Sunday, sometimes I do it on a Monday, depending on what I've got going on. So what I thought I would do today, and as I was talking about, if you watch me over on YouTube, which is my standard platform, which is where you'll find me, and there's about 270 videos over there dating back about 3 years, from the very beginnings of me doing this to where I am now. Now I've been in business as a company, a wool dyer, a textile creator, a wool blender and art back provider, which is my main crux. That's generally what I concentrate on more than anything, though I do a variety of other items like handbags, project bags, hand sewn, pencil cases, utility cases, bits and accessory cases, 3D printing, niddy noddies and Turkish spindles and other bits and pieces on there as well. But generally I'm known for helping you guys explore your possibilities in dyeing and experimenting, and not to feel afraid. Okay, so today, as I said, it's my Dye Pot Thursday. Yesterday on my live chat I was on about my friend and I were going to do the Traveller's Shawl, which is by Andrea Mowry. You'll find her on Ravelry, Instagram as well with links, and you can order a pattern. I'm not sponsored by her whatsoever. I haven't even reached out to her, and we were talking about it, and on the pattern for the shawl, it requires for at least 300 grams of wool, and it's a hand spun shawl. Okay, so with your hand spun yarns. So my mate said to me, why don't you dye up a batch and sell them as packs? So what I've done is I've gone into my studio, looked on my shelves at some bats, a couple of new ones and one's an older one, been in the shop for a while, and I'm going to make complementary rovings to go with those so you can spin up together, and the packs are going to be roughly between 300 to 350. Now you don't have to use obviously Andrea Mowry's Traveller's Shawl. You might want to use it for some other project where you want a large quantity of wool and you want to spin it up. Okay, so I'll show you what I'm going to go with first. So I'm going to talk you through my dye process, what I'm thinking as much as I can, because it's always quite hard because you go on automatic pilot when you're dyeing, especially if you've been doing it for years. So I will try and explain what I'm doing as I go along so you can get an idea for it, and the tools and the equipment that I use as well. I really only have a very basic equipment. I do not buy expensive chamfing trays that cost over 150 quid because there's no point, because they need replacing every couple of years. So I generally use, and I buy them though IKEA is a brilliant place to go and buy roasting tins. Okay, stainless steel roasting tins, and I buy the ones with the metal handles on the bottom, and these are my dedicated tins. So I've got a couple of smaller ones. They do warp when you've used them for a long time, and these ones are definitely due updating, but I buy them from Amazon and they cost me about 16 quid a pop, which grand scheme of things for dyeing, if you want to do it on a regular basis, then it's not a mass amount of money. Okay, this is one that I use a lot as well, a large stainless steel pot with a stainless steel bottom. I never use anything that's enamelled because the enamel will break away. I do have a little enamel pot that I do occasionally use when I'm dyeing up my woolly neps, because it's tiny, it's a small little pot, and it's brilliant. I can just sieve it out with a tea strainer and take out the colours that I want to dye, and it saves me suffering around in this thing like a shark's in it. So yeah, so what I'm dyeing up today is I've got 200 grams of 23 micron crepe merino. I have got 200 grams of Corridel, and I have got 200 grams of South American top. Now each 200 grams is going to go with one dedicated art bat to complement it. So I'm going to do different theories on them. So I've got this one, it's called Nixie. So I've took her off the website, and it's beautiful. Look at all those different colours, and there's a bit of peach in there, there's some pinks and purples, that sort of thing. So with a couple I'm going to do solid stripe dyeing, and I'll show you how I lay it out in the tray. Some of them I'm going to do a mix of colours on one roving and a solid colour, maybe a dominant colour in here, or a colour that doesn't have a lot of, like this lovely lovely baby blue colour I think would look fantastic as a solid roving, but I might change my mind. I might go with peach, who knows. So yeah, so I'm gonna get the wool that I want to use for this. I'm gonna have a look and see what's in it. It's got merino, just silk merino, bamboo, sari silk noil, selena, viscose, tencel, in a mix of mermaid colours. So that's one of the ones that I'm going to do. It's got lots and lots of sparkle in there, and it's a mixed colourway. I don't think, if I remember rightly, it's not done as a gradient. The next one I've got to play with, this one's pretty new to the shop. It's called Extreme Pom Pom. So this one, I'm going to bring out the neon dyes for this one on the rovings. And then adding some pops of colours into the rovings. This one's going to have 2 rovings that are going to have different colourways in them. One will probably be more speckled on a pink background, and the other one will be striping colours, graduated colours all the way along. Okay, so it's got bits and neps in there. So there's olive in there, there's fluorescent pink, there's this orchid pink in there as well. There's hints of yellow, but it's more citricy than it is yellowy. Okay, and it's vivid colours to stimulate the senses. Hand-dyed Punto and Aries with blue-faced Leicester sea cell blend in hot pinks and citric olive and a pink orchid. Hand-dyed with viscose, Tussie silk merino, Corridel, mulberry silk, thrum and Angelina. So the thrum's like this fluffy stuff here. Okay, so this one I think I might be looking at the Corridel to use to dye up with this, because there's Corridel in it. And then the last one that I've got is called Tetra. This one's been on the shop for a little while. I think last summer it's been on there from. There's no sell-by date on wool, so I always recycle them. It's why I've always done bats, because I can always recycle them into something new and rejuvenate them. There we go. So that's Tetra. Really, just even on the picture on the website, it looked like it had pink in it, but it's not. Think of Tetra, the little tiny fish in a fish tank, or when you go at the pet shop. That's what it was supposed to represent. So you've got these lovely... You've got teals, there's turquoise, there's this sapphire, there's a mid blue in there as well. There's a bit of a darker blue in there. And I'll be using those colours in the rovings. And I'm thinking I might go with a solid blue in there, because these colours are quite bold when they're together. And if I remember rightly, it's actually a gradient bat. So you've got the blues here, and it goes all the way through into the turquoise, then the teals, and then it goes back and then repeats the colour inside. So what I've done when I've blended that, I've done a mirror image effect on the gradient. So it meant that you could split the bat literally in half widthways, and you would have one section would have one lot of colour, and the other section of the exact same colourway in the same order on the other side. So if you wanted to spin them together to create the 2 blues spun together as you're going down, and then it'll go into the teal, and then it'll go into the turquoise all the way through. So this one's going to get blended up. It's going to get used, and it's got a soft colourful blend of reverse gradient that can be spun split in the middle, so that you can spin both sides and apply the same colour ends. Hand dyed with blue faced Leicester, Trilobo merino, Corridel, and hand dyed Trilobo. I think I'm going to go with the South American top on this one. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. So you can put questions down the bottom of these videos. You can catch me on YouTube and put messages on there. This video will end up on YouTube in about 6 weeks time, but it will be shortened down, so all you'll see is music over the top and me actually dyeing the fibres. But you won't see any of this explanation. This is for members only, okay? Right. So now that we've got the pleasantries out of the way, I'm going to get on with it. Right, I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so I've turned you down and repositioned you. So I've got this tray, and I've put in some citric acid in there earlier on. Now what I use for my citric acid, and I will just show you, I don't generally, as a rule, weigh things out on a scale when it comes to this sort of stuff. I do have a really sensitive, tiny digital scale, but I have decorated my living room twice and moved my studio around 3 times and gutted it out 4 times. So the odds of me actually finding it are very slim to none. I'd put £100 bet on it that I'll never find it. So I use one of these. This is my coffee thing, but I've got a spare one of these, and that's what I use in my citric acid tub. I've got a big terracotta tub around the corner, and all my citric acid sits inside that. And I literally have a level spoonful of that. That's more than enough. Sometimes I just use half of it, especially if I'm using yarn. So my dyes are already in my tubs, and I've boiled the kettle up. I put in some water to help saturate down that and break down the citric acid. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to go with the Tetra, which I said I was going to use the South American wool. So I have got 200 grams of the South American wool, and it's here. And now I'm going to lay it out in my tray in the way that I want the wool to look. So what I think I will do, instead of doing a gradient, because the bat is a reverse gradient blend, I'm going to just do it like this. And then I'm going to put the colours across here in a striping effect in the tray. Now I'm using my smaller tray because I'm only working with 100 grams in here. I do have two different sizes, but this one is just a standard size roasting tray that you would have in the oven. And that's all it is. It's got a decent heavy bottom on it. So I'm just going to put that in there. Now, you're wondering where all the water's gone. Well, I'm not worried about the water. I've got citric acid. It's all soaked into the wools. I'm going to give it another little dash of citric acid. There'll be about half a spoonful. Half a scoop, okay? I'm just going to sprinkle it over the top. I don't need a lot. Okay. Actually, I'm not going to do Nixie. I'm South American, and I've actually, look, there we are. That's my dye for Nixie. So Nixie's now going on South American wool. Since it's in the tray, it just makes my life so much easier. So Nixie had all those colours in it. It had the lilac, it had the blues, it had a dash of pink in there. I'm adding in some really lightweight green into my tray as well. What I use is these little spoons that I picked up. See, it says dash, a smidge, and a pinch. I do have the ones that have the milliliter weights on them or the gram weights on them, but I like these. This is my go-to spoons because I know exactly what I'm getting with them. That's usually the largest spoon is the one that I use for when I'm doing big dye pots and I want a solid colour, or if I'm just wanting to fill up my jars and I want a little bit of dye at a time. I mean, that's probably the equivalent of like a 1.5 grams of dye powder, which is massive. You don't need a lot for doing any of this. So I'm going to get my dyes, which are already done, boiled up the kettle, put my dye in there with them, and I've left them just to soak and evaporate because some dyes take a little while to break down, especially if they're quite crystallized. So I'm just going to put in half of that at the moment. So half of that one, that's a purple. Then I'm going to go with this light blue, and I'm just going to put a line across here. And again, I'm only going to use half of this. Use gloves. I don't use gloves, so that's why my nails are done in. But get yourself some gloves. Marigolds actually are a nightmare to use when you're working with them because you will want to put your hands in and push the wool around so that the dye pigment sits in it. There's a little bit left of that. That's a ballerina pink. I'm not going to overface you with lots of detail at the moment and what dyes I actually use. We can do that for another time and a bit more content as my Patreon platform grows. So I've got hyacinth here, and then here's my pistachio. So I'm just going to pour that in there, and I've got to get my hands, and I'm just going to gently massage in these colours. Blues in with the lavender or the lilac at the other end, which does split. You end up with these pinky colours. So what I'm going to do now is go through with my pink, and I'm just going to put some in the base here so that I get quite a lot of saturation. I don't mind if I've got lots of white bits, or not lots of white bits, some white bits predominantly in the roving, because I think it will suit the colour for the bat that I'm using. So I'm going to just pour a little bit more green into that section, and just open up the roving and pour in the green where it might have not caught the wool. This wool's been soaking in the sink for about half an hour before I've put it in the dye pot. I'm just going to go back over the top of that there. There we go. I'm going to get the blue, is it blue? Yeah. And I'm going to open up the inside of these wool bricks here, the rovings, and just make sure that the fibre has got plenty dye in on those, majority of those white patches, just to make sure they're covered completely. Okay, so last but not least is this lilac watered down, and I'm going to just pour some of that in the top there so it gets underneath. And then I'm going to pour it along the top there to make sure it's completely saturated. So there we go. So then I'm going to turn on, I'm using my biggest ring on my cooker, and I'm just going to let it do its thing. I usually bring it down so that end heats up really quite quickly, and as the water starts to spit, then I'll leave it as that is. So the next one, do I want to go solid colour? Do I? Yes, you know what, I will. So my other one, I've got my big pot over here, and I'll just move you up while that's doing what it's doing. I'll just turn that down a little bit because I don't want the wool to scorch, but I want it to actually saturate. So I've got my big pot over here, and I'm going to, let's move this over this section a little bit, and I'm going to get my, I think I'll go, yeah, lilac. I will go with the lilac, and I'm going to get the lilac, and I'm going to heat up this front piece, front ring. So I'm over here now. You can see that at the same time. Just turn that down a little bit because the steam's really starting to come through. And I need to start warming up this. I've already put a scoop of citric acid in this, a scoop and a half, because I've filled up the pot up just under halfway. And if I can find the labels, I think it is a 20-litre pot that I'm using. Yeah, I can't see it, but there's about 5 litres of water in there, and I'm going to use just a scoop of dye because I don't want it overpowering, and if I feel like it needs more, I can always add it in. Also, tongs are my best friend. You want to get yourself some nice tongs. I have a couple of different sets, and metal with some rubber ends on there so that you can lift out your wheels afterwards or spin them around in the water. And I'm going to just grab my other 100 grams of South American top and plunk it straight in the water. I'm just going to give it a bit of a shuggle, and it's cold water anyway, it's not being warmed up, well it's lukewarm. I did warm it up with hot water straight from the tap, but it's not hot, it's not going to felt. I'm just going to give it a shuggle around, and that's in there now. So I'll show you what that looks like. So that is the lilac dye. It's the Dharma dye that I use. Predominantly I use Dharma dyes. I do use other brands. But yeah, so that's in there, and that light is actually all covered over, but the light makes it look like it's white, but it's not. The wool has taken with that dye, and it will saturate really quickly because there is only a very small amount in there. And there we've got that one you've just seen me do. So I'm now, because this bit looks like it's clear water at the top, and it's clear nearly all the way through because that wool has been saturating in the acid, and the dye pigment has taken really quickly, and it's not a very strong dye solution that I have put in the water anyway. So that is literally minutes that'll take to do that. So I've just pushed that off a bit because I want this green. There's still quite a bit of green in the bottom of that tray. Okay, so that water is completely clear in there now. I'm going to turn that off. Because that water is completely saturated into the wool, I don't have to worry about emptying it, and I can do my next batch in there because there's plenty of citric water and citric acid in the water bath for me to put in another layer for the next lot that I'm going to dye up. That purple has nearly saturated completely, and look at those lovely pastel-y colours that are going to look amazing with that Nixie Mermaid bat. Now it's going straight into the sink so it can rinse off any citric acid, and I neutralise it with just a quarter of a cap of fabric conditioner. That's all I use. I don't use any washing up liquid, or I don't know, washing up liquid shampoo or hand soap or anything like that. I don't even use delicate woolen silk wash because of the enzymes that I put in it. I would use that for a finished project, but not for neutralising the acid that's in this wool. So I'm just going to stick this straight into the sink, and it's a sink of hot water so that it doesn't shock and felt straight away. This purple has just a little bit left to go, and then that should be done. That just needs to come up to a bit of a higher heat, and then that will be ready to go into the sink. I'm just letting this cool down a second, and what I'll do now is get my dyes ready for doing the tetra, which I said I was going to do on the corridor. So I've got my kettle already boiled, and I'm literally just going to pour it straight in to my beakers. You can use hot water straight out the tap as well if you want to, but since I was here at the kettle and it was already full, I thought I might as well just heat it up, let it cool down a little bit, and then I can use it to help melt my dyes. That will do. So 5 tubs. Now I have got sage leaf, which is more of a bluey green teal colour. So I'm just going to pop. I want some really bold colours with this, so I am using a bit more dye pigment, probably the equivalent of about 2 grams worth. I've got a cayenne red, which is a lovely reddy brick colour. I want that quite strong. I'm going to put that in there. And then I have got a dark blue, which is called blue. Is it blue steel? So I'm going to put that in that one. And then I have got a normal teal colour, which is more greeny. Put that in that one. And I have got a turquoise blue, which you do not need. Whenever you get a turquoise blue, you really, less is more. The tiniest little knock of it is all you need, otherwise it'll be there forever trying to saturate it away to get it to soak into the wools. So I'm just going to let that sit there and steep for a bit while I wait for this purple to finish off, and I'll wait for this water to cool down, and then I can get it laid in how I want it and get this pot ready for its next solid colour, which I'm thinking I might go with the chili red for this, or I might go for a dark teal, like a tealy blue. I haven't made up my mind yet, but I think a nice solid colour with this one, and then when I do the extreme pom-pom, I think I might do 2 rovings in the tray and just give them both a different look. Maybe do one where it goes into a bath of pink, and then do a bit of speckling on top of it, and the other one do a gradual a gradient effect or something like that. So that's where my head's at on that at the moment. I think I work and think as I go along. Okay, so that water's tepid now, so I can actually put this corridor in to my dye pot. And that's the different effect one. So I think what I might do with this is do the same as what I did with the Nixie roving, was actually just do striping colours across. I'm still in two minds whether I want a solid one with this one or if I want to create a gradient in just 3 colours or 3 or 4 colours on the other one, because this one's going to have a dash of red in it, but maybe go avert from the red and go more the tealy blues with the other roving is where I'm thinking at the moment. Okay, so that's ready. So I just need to get a spoon and stir this up. And go, plastic spoon, and just stir that to make sure all the pigment has melted. Some dyes you'll see like a scum on the top of it. It's still workable dyes, there's nothing wrong with them, but it's just the way that some of the milling companies work their dyes, that they don't always look the same as each other, as in like one's really powdery and colourful. I'll show you an example. So this is really lovely and powdery, and you can see that in there. Okay, it's got nice, it's fluid, it moves around on its own, there's nothing wrong with that. But if I was to grab this one here, just sage leaf, now look at that speckled inside, and it's got this grainy look to it, but it's still a dye all in itself, and it fizzes in the water as well when you put it in. So does the pistachio one from Dharma. I have no idea why they're all processed in different ways. It's obviously got to do with the chemical solutions that they use for doing the dyes. So if you ever get a dye and it looks like that, don't worry about it. Okay, so this is my darkest one. This is the blue steel, so I'm going to put that right across the middle. Right, leave that like that. And then either side of that, I'm going to put my different shades of teal. Okay, I've got another teal in here. Put that on that side. Right, so that's in there. And then on the far side, I'm going to put this turquoise. As I say, less is more with your turquoise. You don't need to go mad with it. You don't need a lot of pigment in there, that's for sure. And then this is my cayenne red. So I'm just going to quickly push that in. And I'm hoping it doesn't bleed too much in. So what I'm going to do, before it starts to bleed into each other colour wise, I'm going to turn on my hob, and I can add in my colours as the dye starts to stick to the wool. I'll leave that like that. Still debating what to do with this dye pot about the other roving. I think if I avert doing this chili red and stick with the dark blue and the dark teal and the turquoise on the other roving, I think that'll look really, really nice. Lift those back a bit so that whatever dye is still left in the bottom of the pan there, it'll go into the bottom of the roving that's sat there in the water, and it sits there. And if you lift it up and release it a little bit, that dye that's in the water will quite happily go into that. The green's been swallowed up completely by the blue. with this green here. So I'm going to use a bit more of this. And that's the last of that green. So that's my teal green been used up now. And just try and move it a little bit so that that dye I've just put in will soak into the wool. I'm going to get my red again. I'm going to pour that along the top here. That teal blue. I'm going to pour the last of my turquoise onto the top of there and just give that a minute. I haven't added any more citric acid to this because there's plenty in the water already in the bath. I'm just going to push that up a bit and let the heat get down to this red. And while I'm here, I'm going to pour the last of this teal blue up here where it was. And then in a bit I'll add some more of that darker blue, but I don't want to add too much in, so what I'll do is I'll pull the rovings apart so that the dark blue will saturate inside the wool. A lot of people say don't mess around with your wools too much, and that's a fair point to make. You really don't want to be bashing it around and everything else, but sometimes giving it a little bit of encouragement is probably the best word to use, to go to the places that you want it to go to. I'm not happy about this section here, though there is some green. I'm really not that impressed with it. I'm not going to put the blue in yet. So I'll give that a minute to settle and this red to start to penetrate into the wool. And I might just go along with some speckle some green dye on to this area here, just to give it a bit more depth, because it looks a little bit wishy-washy. And what you want to try and avoid is too much muddiness. You don't want it too muddy. Now, I'm not happy about this green up here, so what I've got is some cayenne blue. So I'm just going to ever so gently just sprinkle it along the top, and then I'll nudge it in with my tongs. Now I think that will improve that look. And then if it does bleed into that cayenne red, then it'll end up more of a purpley colour than it will. Turn that right down. It'll turn more into cayenne, a purpley red than it is a brown red, because it's green green and red next to each other, which is the colours that you want to try and avoid being together if you can help it. Because I've added a bit more dye in there, more pure dye, I'm going to add a bit more citric acid into it and just sprinkle a little bit over the top where I've just added in these extra colours to help, and a bit more up here on the turquoise to help them saturate through. While I'm waiting for that, what I'll do is I probably won't use the red again. I'll just grab the kettle and I will pour out a couple of pots of water. I think 3, 4. There we go. Put them there. And I'm going to add a bit of this lovely cayenne blue. Add that in there. Then I'm going to do turquoise again. This is for this other roving that I've got, the 100-gram roving, and the tiniest bit of turquoise, because it is a little devil and it gets everywhere. I'm not going to bother with the normal teal, but I'm going to go with that darker teal again because it definitely worked. It looked really nice. So I'm just going to try and melt this this turquoise blue that's got stuck to my spoon. That's cayenne red, that's the wrong one. Me, oh, that was lucky I looked at that first. Sage. So a good about 2 grams of that in with that water. There we go. So that's my dyes ready for the next colourway to go in, and just pull that down with the hopes that this section up here will start to strike a bit more. I'm not expecting miracles from the turquoise because it is a swine. I generally usually end up with it quite a bit left in the water. Okay, so we're back to the second part of this roving to go with the Tetra bat, and I'm going to layer it this way because I'm just going to do colour gradient on this one minus the red colour. Excuse the splodges of turquoise, I have no idea where my hand that's coming from. There we go. Let me try and get that off. Doesn't matter because it's blues that are going in on top of it anyway, blues and teals, which are already done. And then it go pop off and find where this other piece of turquoise is on my hand. There we go. All the way down the length. It's got water in it, just a dusting of water. You don't want too much. Literally, I don't know, about ½ centimetre, if that. All the way down. Make sure all the wool's penetrated with that. So this one I'm just going to do a block of colour there, block of colour here, and all the way down because it's zigzagged. With the thought in mind that I'll be able to create a gradient structured dye. So I'm going to start off with my turquoise blue. I'm going to bring it down here and do it from the bottom up because we live in a wonky house and nothing in this house is straight. Everything goes at an angle. So when I'm dyeing, everything comes down this end of the dye pot. So I have to think about how I'm doing things. Right, so I'm going to put my mid blue in next. Along there. don't worry about the whites that I'm leaving behind, because they'll get soaked and compressed and pushed together in a minute. There we go. Next one, I'm going to go with the dark blue. I'm just going to leave that like that now, and then right at the top put this strong sage colour in there. Okay, so I'm just going to do my fingers. I'm going to massage the wool, make sure all of it has been coloured in the tray with the dye. Just give it a bit of a push along. Now I'm going to make sure all these edges are done up here. Again, make sure that the wool underneath where there's white patches is getting some dye in there. And then I've got this one here. Make sure that's got, see, these white patches underneath. So make sure the dye gets inside that wool. Lift that up, see, along here as well. So just let this dye wheedle its way underneath. And then we've got the turquoise right at the very end. And I want to make sure that that underneath has got dye in there. So there we go. And I'm just going to let that do its thing. That looks really quite nice. Very similar colours to what is in the NYX, the Tetra. Turn that down now that it's starting to fizz. That up a little bit more and let this end get it, because that dye is already starting to saturate and it's getting clear up there. You can just about make it out. These blues are starting to really saturate through now. And let this teal and blue turquoise fade through. So I'll catch you in a minute. Okay, so there's another tray. This is the last one, and this is the Merino 23 micron count. You'll see a picture pop up in a minute. I've put the other 100 grams in the pot, and I'm using fluorescent yellow in there. This one's to go with the extreme pom-pom. Okay, so colours I've picked out electric violet, olive green, apple green, some more of the fluorescent pink, and a pink blush is what I've gone with for these. So what I need to do is think about where my pinks go so that they don't bleed in with the green and go muddy. So I will just pull this straight down the middle for now, leave that where it is. And I'm going to put the blush, because it's like a pinky purple colour, I'm going to put that on the other side. I think I'll put a bit more on that side. There we go. And then I'm going to add a stripe of purple on both sides. There we go, one there. And one there. I'm going to leave a bit of the purple just in case I need it. So I'm just going to push these in, massage them into the wool with the hopes that I don't end up with massive patches of white underneath. But with this one again, I don't think it will matter if there's the odd bit of white through it. I'm going to put my citric acid on top now. You can do it in the water or you can add it on afterwards. I'm just going to add it on now. Okay. I've left over colours of those dyes for me to use to top up the colours. So I'm just going to pour in some of this green here. I don't want too much because I really don't want it to knock it up the purple colour. And then I've got the olive green, which I'm going to put right up the top here and let it bleed in behind. And leave that like that, and I'll sort that out in a minute. So I'm just going to turn on the heat. And then I'm just going to pat down this olive. And pat down this apple green, so the most of the darker of the pigment stays. I'll pull it around this one. I want to try and keep most of the darker pigment at the top end of the wool, and not really more pastel-y sort of hint of it near in my purple, so it doesn't bleed into it too much. I'm going to turn this heat down. Kettle's just boiled again, and I'm going to turn this front ring on for this big pot over here and get that going. So this is the point now where I can add in, I would say, a bit more purple. Get my tongs out. I'm going to turn the heat down a little bit more. This is as low as I can get it. And then I've got this pink blush, so I'm going to just tease, open some sections where this colour can go back in, right into the bottom there. Right, just give that a minute. Greens are quite a domineering takeover colour, so I try and not use too much of them when I'm playing around with colours like this. I can add in a bit more of the fluorescent pink in here again. A bit more down the side. I'm just going to pour some of this over the top where the olives tried to creep in up this end. I'm not going to add any more green in. I'm quite happy with those. I'll use those greens in some dyes for rovings that are going on the shop later on. and then push that up. That green's not far off saturating into there. So this has just about all saturated away. Look, the water's nice and clear underneath. There's still some little white patches, but I'm quite happy the way that's turned out. I've got those clear, tiny bit of purple up there still left to do. So I always try and make sure that I use my tongs just to pull away, just in case there's any little pockets of dye still left in the pot. And then down here, the water's just about cleared away. There's all the green saturated in there now, and it's not bled too much or badly into this purple, giving it that muddy look. So that now is ready to go in the sink and saturate. The fluorescent pink one has still got a few more minutes to go, but that wool is lovely and saturated. There's no white spots in there at all. It just needs a few more minutes in the dye pot. So that's the dyes for those rovings. They'll come with 200 gram rovings. I will pop on later once they're all dried and ready, and I will show you what they look like as blend combination sets that will hit the website this weekend. Okay, so I'll catch up with you in the next part of this video. Excuse me, there's always something clattering in this house. The next part of this video, and we'll show you the results. So as you can see, it is the next day and all the wool is dried now and ready for me to take photographs for blending with. So I'll just recap what it was that I dyed yesterday to complement these combination sets. So we have got this one here, which is called Extreme Pom Pom, and it has got Punta Aries with Blueface Leicester and Sea Cell blended together. Hand dyed viscose and Tussar silk, merino, corridel, mulberry silk, thrum and Angelina. There's lots of sparkle and you might not be able to pick it up on this. So to go with this one, dyed that. So you've got these different spectrums of colours in here, added an extra dimension with the purple or the electric blue, electric purple, violet, and the fluorescent pink in there. You've got apple green and you've got olive, so there's a little bit of a different spectrum in there just to help pick up these colours so it doesn't look all samey. And with that is fluorescent pink. So you have, we'll turn it around this way. You have all of these colours that now go with this bat. So that is the first combination set that will be going on the website on Sunday. Okay. Then we'll go with Nixie next. Nixie is hand-dyed merino with Tussar silk blended together. Then it's got merino bamboo, sari silk noil, stellina, viscose, tencel in a mix of mermaidy colours. So it's got these purples and blues and hints of little pinks and things like that in there. On that blend, and you can see there's Angelina in that, there's lots of it. And with that, we went with, again, mermaidy colours, but a bit bolder. This one here. So you've got pink in there, you've got the lilac, you've got the pistachio, the blues in with that. And with that one, we went with a solid roving. Well, it's semi-solid roving. So they all complement each other when they're spun up, and you could 3-ply spin them, so you spin them all as singles or split them in half, split the bat in half, split the rovings in half and spin them all off, and then repeat that and then 3-ply them together, which will be say you spun them in singles in the S, you want to ply them in the Z, and then on the 2 of them, and then with the third one you want to ply your 2-plied yarns with your purple one Okay, just for talks. Right, I'll talk this through again. Right, so split all your wool in half, okay, so you can fit them onto your bobbins. Then what you want to do, especially if you've got small ones, okay, then what you want to do is spin this off in the S, okay, 50 grams of this one, split this off and spin 50 grams of that in singles in the S. Then you apply these two together in the Z, okay. Make sure they've got plenty of energy in them. Don't worry about spinning too much, too much of a tight twist, because you really want that energy, because it's going to go again on the third time, okay. Then this one you're going to spin in the Z, okay, and then you're going to apply it with these in the S direction. So there's only one that's spun in the opposite way to what you would normally do, whatever comes natural to you, okay. So you're going to spin this off in your plying direction, and then when you spin them together to create a 3-ply yarn, you're going to spin them all back off in the S, which is it's your standard spinning direction, okay. It's all subjective, all depends on what you want it for. Right, and the last one from this trio of combination bats is this one. It's really, really pretty, very pretty. It's quite deceptive. I always find that these colours never seem to sell really quickly off the shop. This one's called Tetra, and it is a reverse gradient. So what I mean by reverse gradient, and I will talk these through on these videos, that's the whole point of why I wanted to create this Patreon, is so that you start off with your colours and you make sure on either end of your blending board or on either end of your drum carder, you start with your dark blue, a strip one side and a strip the other side, and then next to that you do a teal, and you do a strip either side, and then if you've got another colour you'll put a strip in between them, and then in the middle you have another colour right through the middle, and you just repeat that layering system all the way through when you're blending. Okay, so that's what that is. It has got Blueface Leicester Trilobal, Corriedale hand dyed Trilobal, and Twisted Silk in there, and the BFL's been hand dyed. So with this we went with 2 different rovings. This one has got a gradient colourway, so we start out with the turquoise into mid blue into a dark blue, and then into this pistachio sort of greeny colour at the end. So you've got that goes with that. You can just make out there is deep greens in there as well, so that really does look smart. And then this one, we picked up the red in this one and we've used that to incorporate in there, so it's got teals, dark blue, dark teals, and then this cayenne pepper red. So these will be going on the website next week. So I just want to say thank you very much for the ones that have subscribed for the 7-day trial. Thank you. I really do appreciate it, you new members. Hopefully it's something that will carry on for a long while. The whole point of me wanting to do this Patreon was so that you guys, it can be more interactive. So every week I will put a vote system up, or like on the chats, in the messages, on the chats, where once a month you vote for the colours. So you give suggestions for the Storyteller art bats. And there's one up at the moment, so I'm just waiting for you guys to just sort of respond in there. I've had one person mention what colours they want to do, which was gold, silver and green. So I've picked out 3 different pictures, and I need these information so that I can dye up the Storyteller fibres on Thursday. And then once I've done that, then I can then film that dyeing session, which will be open to everybody on here, but the actual blending of the Storyteller bats will be only open to the members only section. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to do it's more to be interactive, to get you guys involved, feel like you can actually do this sort of stuff at home and actually put input and suggestions into it, because you guys are supporting me and you're sponsoring me, so I want it interactive for you guys so that you can feel like you're part of the creativity of what it is that I do here at Woolly Cottage. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves, and I shall see you next week. And don't forget to put your votes, look for the chat on the Patreon account page, and you should see a block picture, and it's got put your vote in for the colours you want this one. So I'm looking for 3 base colours, excuse the fingers, 3 base colours that I can use to interpretate into a colourway and to create 3 unique bats. Right, all right, I'm off. Take care. I'll see you soon over on YouTube probably. Bye for now.